How's it going, everybody? It's Warren. Welcome back to my channel, The Cosmic Wonder, where we talk about Marvel and all things relating to the MCU. Now, the future of the MCU is very, very exciting and very bright despite the current pandemic that we're all living in right now. Eventually, things will be normal-ish. And eventually, Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four, will make their way into the MCU. And it seems like it's going to be in a movie that fans are very excited for, but don't realize just how important it is. And that is Ant-Man 3. Now, today we have reports of what Marvel's plans are for Ant-Man 3, and they do involve the Fantastic Four and the Young Avengers, which I did a video on yesterday. But this new report tells us that the Fantastic Four are coming to the MCU soon, which coincides with what Kevin Feige said at the end of Marvel's panel at San Diego Comic-Con of 2019.
There's a lot of other stuff we didn't get a chance to talk about today. I didn't even have time to talk about the Fantastic Four.
So let's dive into it. If you're new, be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with all Marvel content, and so you can enter my giveaway for a chance to win an Xbox One or a PS4. I'm picking a winner at 550,000 subscribers, only 5,000 more to go. So today's report comes from the website The Geeks Worldwide. They have broken many scoops in the past before, and recently their senior editor Thomas Polito has posted concerning Ant-Man 3. And he has said that he has discovered that before Jeff Loveness, who was a writer and co-producer of the Rick and Morty TV show, had been hired to write Ant-Man 3, Paul Rudd originally wrote a script for Ant-Man 3. His direct quote is, "Before Jeff Loveness came aboard, Paul Rudd wrote an Ant-Man 3 script that featured MODOK and AIM. Not only that, but Marvel originally wanted the Fantastic Four in the film, but now they're pursuing the possibility of including the Young Avengers." Now, there is a pretty big tie-in and connection between the Fantastic Four and Ant-Man, and it seems like Ant-Man is actually going to be setting up a lot more for the MCU than fans think. Not only are the Fantastic Four going to possibly be in the film and or set up in Ant-Man 3, but it's also most likely going to tease or set up Kang the Conqueror's MCU appearance. And I'll break down and talk about just how all of this is going to happen in Ant-Man 3. So if you remember back before Avengers Endgame came out, right after the release of Ant-Man and the Wasp, Marvel Studios revealed something that is very, very important to the future of the MCU. It's in the scene where Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne are leaving the quantum realm. The kind folks over at Marvel told us to freeze frame on a particular scene in which it revealed a quantum city. Now, obviously this was very intentionally placed, even though you have to freeze frame the scene to see it and you can only see it for about a second. But it's because of those reasons that Marvel made sure to include it in the movie and then tell us about it, which make it so important. Now, we originally thought that this was going to have a pretty big impact on Avengers Endgame, but obviously we all saw the movie and it didn't play any role in the movie at all. But Marvel still told us about it, which means it's going to have a very, very important role to play in Ant-Man 3. Now, the reason that this quantum city is going to be so important in Ant-Man 3 and so important to the future of the MCU is because the Fantastic Four are most likely in the quantum city. And it's most likely Kang the Conqueror who put them there and trapped them there. Now, it's been widely speculated for a very long time that the Fantastic Four were going to make their debut in Ant-Man 3 because of the quantum city. And now we have confirmation from this report that that is what Marvel was planning to do. Now, they may have deterred a little bit from it, but it does seem like they plan to have the Fantastic Four be inside of that city. And here's the story of how that happens. Now, originally, the Fantastic Four get their powers from space by being exposed to cosmic rays. But in the MCU, it seems like that's going to be changed. Now, in the MCU, it seems like they're going to be getting their powers from the quantum realm. Now, if you recall, at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, Janet Van Dyne comes out of the quantum realm and she has powers now. And she explains that while you're in the quantum realm, it starts to change you.
I'm not the same woman I was 30 years ago, Henry. This place, it changes you. I mean, adaptation is part of it, but some of it is evolution.
And as you can see, right after she mentions how the quantum realm changes you, she flies right past the quantum city. That means Hank Pym picked her up right next to the city, which means that is most likely where she was. And if she was in a whole city, she has definitely met some people, and the Fantastic Four were probably some of those people. Now, as far as how they got there goes, that is most likely due to Kang. Now, for those of you who may not know, Kang the Conqueror's real name is Nathaniel Richards, and he's a great descendant of Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four, Mr. Fantastic. In the comics, Nathaniel Richards is actually from the future in an alternate timeline. He creates a time travel machine and begins to time travel to many different universes. He goes back to ancient times, and at one point, he builds a base in Limbo called Chronopolis. Now, there's two very interesting parts about Chronopolis. One, as I just said, was he creates it in Limbo. Now, when you start to dive into time travel, it can get pretty messy, but Avengers Endgame used the quantum realm as the means to time travel. So therefore, if there was a limbo, so to speak, in time, it would be the quantum realm. Because as we've learned from Hank Pym and Ant-Man, the quantum realm is a place where time and space don't really operate the same way they do in the real world. Not to mention, Ant-Man was actually stuck in the quantum realm. He was stuck in limbo, so to speak, at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp and before Avengers Endgame. He was stuck until the true hero of the movie, the Rat, stepped on the button, bringing him back. But the fact that Chronopolis exists in Limbo isn't the only hint that the Fantastic Four are stuck there. If you take a look at a picture of Chronopolis in the comics and you compare it to this quantum city that we saw in Ant-Man and the Wasp, they actually look very, very similar. Primarily due to the fact that they are very large, grand cities and they both have a giant dome over them. So this does appear to be Chronopolis, which means that it is created by Kang the Conqueror. Since Kang is the master of time travel, he's clearly realized that the quantum realm is the way to do it. And now it seems like in the MCU, he has set up an entire city inside of the quantum realm, a base that exists between time. That way he can go to whatever point in time that he wants to, and he can do it right from the city. Now, as far as Kang wanting to capture the Fantastic Four and keep them inside of there goes, Kang actually has a lot of resentment and bitterness towards the Fantastic Four. When Kang originally learns how to time travel, he goes back in time to ancient Egypt. He makes himself the ruler over Egypt and he calls himself Rama Tut, but his rule is cut short by a time-displaced Fantastic Four. Ever since then, he's been very bitter with the Fantastic Four, and has fought them many different times, which is why he could have captured them and have placed them in his quantum city in the quantum realm right now. But we have to remember that Nathaniel Richards is originally from 1,000 years into the future, so if he caught the Fantastic Four in our current timeline, that means they probably wouldn't have their powers yet. So Kang himself, by bringing the Fantastic Four inside of the quantum realm, is actually giving them their powers. Now, Kang is the one villain that is going to be perfect for tying the entirety of the new Marvel Cinematic Universe together. We have the New Avengers coming up, the Young Avengers coming up, and then of course we now have the X-Men and the Fantastic Four coming into the MCU as well. And Kang throughout his time has had dealings with everyone. Kang the Conqueror made his debut in Fantastic Four number 19. But he is also one of the most iconic Avengers villains of all time. He is no doubt a Thanos-level villain. And not only that, but he also has a major tie-in to the X-Men as well. When Kang first goes back in time to ancient Egypt and becomes the pharaoh Rama Tut, he takes on an apprentice, someone that he plans to be his heir. And that person is N'Saba-Nur, the mutant that would eventually go on to become Apocalypse. And then of course there's his tie-in to the Young Avengers. The Avengers are originally formed by Iron Lad. However, Iron Lad is actually a past alternate version of Nathaniel Richards, aka Kang the Conqueror. Kang goes back in time to visit his past self to stop bullies from putting him into a coma for a month. But the young Nathaniel Richards is horrified of what he becomes, so he takes the future Kang's armor and he runs away. He takes his armor and becomes Iron Lad, and then he forms the Young Avengers. Unfortunately, he would eventually realize that he has to become Kang, and eventually, he does. And to top it all off, it also appears that Kang the Conqueror is going to tie into the Loki series as well. When we got our very brief clip of the Loki series during the Super Bowl, we can see Loki wearing a prison uniform that says TVA on it. This stands for the Time Variance Authority, and the Time Variance Authority is responsible for protecting multiple timelines. If anybody from a timeline or a timeline itself threatens another timeline, their job is to intervene. And in the comics, they've run into Kang the Conqueror many times, although they're never really able to stop him. So it appears that not only are the Fantastic Four going to be introduced or set up in Ant-Man 3, but so is Kang the Conqueror. And Kang the Conqueror is going to tie the MCU together in a way that we've never seen before, with the Avengers, Young Avengers, X-Men, and the Fantastic Four. Many of the insiders have already confirmed that Kang the Conqueror is indeed coming, and he will be a villain of one of the future Avengers films. But much like Thanos, he will be introduced prior to the actual Avengers film coming out, and that's where Ant-Man 3 comes in. So, what do you think about the Fantastic Four's introduction and setup in Ant-Man 3 and the arrival of Kang the Conqueror? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe with notifications turned on so you can stay up to date on everything relating to Marvel. For live updates, you can follow me on Twitter, and as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.